Welcome to the JWU Library's video on how to analyze and interpret the discussion section in a scholarly video. Today we're looking at an article titled Petting Away Pre-Exam Stress, the Effect of Therapy Dog Sessions on Student Well-Being. Now keep in mind, understanding the discussion and conclusion sections of a research article, in those sections the authors present their results. What did the study find? What conclusions did they make? How was their research questions answered? Being able to locate and evaluate these sections is important. Here you will often find a strong quote to use in your presentation or paper. Let's take a look at where to find the discussion section. So we begin with the title. Here we have the title, and as we've reviewed, the abstract is a summary of the article. So you always want to read the abstract first. Now look on the right side of this article, and we see that there are various sections here, but we're going to jump right down to the discussion section, or you can simply scroll. And you'll notice here that it is labeled as discussion. So here's really where you want to pause and slow down. In the past, we've talked about scanning for the most important parts of the article, but here you want to really think about reading every word. So the results of this study provide evidence that therapy dog sessions on university campuses have positive effects on students' well-being. That is what this article, this study found. We found considerable reductions in stress and increases in happiness and energy levels immediately after the therapy dog sessions. So that first sentence, those first two sentences of the discussion section, those are really powerful quotes. You could talk about several paragraphs or pages about how did it add in terms of the research for reductions in stress? What did it mean in terms of the increases in happiness? In the second paragraph, they talk about more of the details. So they found evidence of several benefits, and that included 10 hours later. So participants in the experimental group, those that had access to therapy dog sessions, experienced a greater reduction in negative affect and perceived stress. They also reported an increase in social support. Overall, differences in social support, perceived stress, negative effect were small, and they did not have a lasting effect on happiness or life satisfaction, suggesting that the effects are somewhat selective. In other words, it didn't change the students' lives, but for those first 10 hours, it really helped to reduce stress. And then it places this study into context of other studies. So it talks about how our results agree with previous research showing short-term psychological benefits. And if you wanted to, you could look up these different studies by clicking on these numbers, and it would bring you to the section in the work study or references where you could find the titles, and then you could ask a librarian for help in getting those studies. Here it looks like it fills a research gap regarding the longevity. So no other study had really thought about how long those benefits last, but this study examined that. And it looks like there were some effects 3 months later. Okay, so let's take a look here. This one talks about limitations. So every study will have a section that says, hey, we weren't able to study everything. So this is what some researchers after us should consider studying. So they were not able to really determine if It was the therapy dogs or the dog handlers or the peers that contributed to the benefits. However, there was so much past research that found benefits of therapy dog sessions that it seems probable that the dogs were the primary contributor. They also said that it's difficult to compare these benefits with other stress management interventions, so other researchers should talk about that. Overall, the results of this study suggest that single drop-in group therapy dog sessions are likely to benefit students' well-being and reduce stress in the immediate period following the session. And finally, look at this wonderful last paragraph. This might be a great place to grab a quote. Given the high levels of stress and emotional difficulties in university students, we all agree with that. It's super stressful to balance everything, and you're doing a great job, by the way. It is important to design accessible interventions to reduce stress and improve well-being. The results of our study indicate that therapy dog sessions considerably reduce stress and improve aspects of student well-being. That's it. That's how you walk through and think about how you can take out aspects of the discussion section and think about which one would make a really powerful quote. Thank you for joining me. Reach out to a librarian for additional help. Oh my God, it's 6 minutes.